Before we start, I'd like to get some space for our panel speakers to just introduce themselves. So can you please start with Petr? So just introduce yourself, where we are, what you are doing. Even you can also share what your company is doing. So
should I press something? No? Okay. Well, so hello everyone. My name is Petr. I'm leading Code Now and Stratox Group as a whole. We are mainly focused on microservice, event-driven architecture, and software development projects at larger companies trying to modernize, I don't know, whatever legacy systems they have. And Code Now therefore came into existence to support developers and their experience in such projects. So thank you for coming, and I hope that you will enjoy the discussion today.
Hi, my name is Michal Hampl. I'm here for G2 Technologies, and we are on the business 20 years, started as web hosting and developed to cloud, and we are providing local cloud services with some overlap to multi-cloud and support for developers. And I'm not sure whether it's embarrassing or not to mention, but I used to be a developer. But I guess many of you would consider me as dinosaur developer those times.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for coming. My name is Vlasák. I'm a CEO of Revolgy. Thanks, Petr, for hosting us in this, great spaces. Revolgy is partnering with the companies with the global ambition, which needs cloud to, achieve the requested latency and the experience for their end customers. We are on the market for almost 30 years. We started as a classic IT provider of that time, dealing with the Lotus Notes and Novell NetWare and stuff like that. But in 2009, Google actually introduced Gmail for consumer and business, and we decided to go for it only because we seen the future in this web-based software as a service, and we wanted to serve the cloud wave and understand more about it. And from that time, we developed from the communication collaboration area of Gmail, as customers were coming to us saying we do no longer have mail servers, what we will do with the rest of the servers. So we started to use more and more of a GCP and also AWS infrastructure. So those are the main two hyperscalers that we partner with a lot of different flavors of added value and services, but we will touch upon it.
So thank you. We have there 3 speakers, and it's not just by mistake, but we are going to speak about the cloud. And from my perspective, the Petr company is providing something like under the cloud, I mean under the hardware itself, just something like called platform. Michal just provides something like private cloud, but also the hybrid model. So I'd like to speak also about the private ones, not only about the public ones. And Mira, can I call it Mira?
Sure.
Mira just provides, just some knowledge about the public clouds, mainly about the public clouds. So we have all these perspectives to speak about the cloud itself. So, and we can move to the first question. So how do you define cloud native in your context? Yeah. And what are the key benefits for your clients? Just a general question, and then I will have some special questions for each of you. So you can just start.
May I?
You can, of course.
Yeah. So I would add to the definition also the digital native. So I consider cloud native and digital native quite similar. The digital native is more from the, let's say, business model perspective, because the digital natives are the customers which would not, or the companies which would not exist without the internet at all. It would not be, the internet is basically the baseline or backbone enabling them to actually have the business at all, or like Seznam or Google or Rovi or Avast or companies like that. So they would not be able to exist. And cloud native means that if the digital native company has the global scaling ambitions, they need to go to cloud because predominantly public cloud because they want to serve the customers with the proper latency, with the proper experience, etc., etc. Which doesn't mean that the big, traditional companies cannot go to cloud, but the cloud native is someone who is, from my perspective, born in cloud.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Okay, well, I think that is quite a huge topic, and I understand it as some ecosystem of many things together, like some developer approach, some way how to think about development, some way how to operate some applications, and I would probably cover everything and relate to this 12-factor cloud native approach. So basically, in this shorter perspective, it's this one, but you need to do some mind shift. You need to do some way of thinking how to design and develop applications and build all those processes to make something cloud native.
Thanks.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the. So our view is more or less from the application perspective. So cloud native applications or architecture is the one which takes into account infinite resources provided by cloud. I can scale up and down when I need to, but also I have to actually design the app in a mode that, it can fail, basically. And on the application layer, I have to somehow cope with that because the hardware is there and then it's not there, and network is there and then it's not there. So those things, from the application perspective also, let the platform do the heavy lifting and focus and write as little code as possible, only the business logic, because when everything is changing, as the clouds and networks and providers, everything is still evolving, I don't want to touch the business logic just because somebody else invented a new way how to do a service discovery or how to do something like that. So push a lot of repetitive work down to the platform and leverage that. So then that could be considered cloud native.
Okay. And Petr, your company provides a platform running on various clouds, right? So what changes does combining public and private cloud brings from the architecture perspective? Like combining,
So we with Code Now, we are more or less focused to the niche of something called microservice architecture. So that brings a lot of changes by itself. You should learn to walk before you try to fly. It's definitely not for all situations, but when you do microservices and when you want to go hybrid cloud, because in many cases the larger customers, they have to go to the hybrid cloud. You have 5 years TCO and 3 years of investment ahead of you for your hardware that you already own. At the same time, you want to prepare for the time you will leave, so suddenly you have overlap. How do you solve that? You want to write software in a way that nowadays it's running in one cloud, and tomorrow maybe I want to add proprietary service from other cloud. Who is actually coping with the complexity? Well, it's developers. Can you have a single developer, let's say SDLC point of view, how do you deliver software? Can you have a single tool chain, tool set, processes? If you have multiple deployment targets, well, then it's difficult. If you go with a single one provided by one cloud provider, it probably does not work in on-prem. If you go with the on-prem, probably you will have a difficult time. So Code Now tries to abstract away this complexity and solve the repetitive tasks the developers face every day in a way that the fact that it runs somewhere is actually hidden, and unless you write software specific to some backend provided service, you probably should not even know where it runs.
Thanks. If you wanted to add something, so just go on, and if not, I have a couple of questions. So.
Okay. You want? I can. Okay. Yeah. I would not forget about the operations people for the complexity, because it's a different beast to build a SRE best practice on the public cloud, or different even public clouds, and to do it on the on-prem or hybrid.
For sure.
So, Michal, have you noticed a growing shift towards cloud-native technologies, or are companies still scared about fully transition to the cloud?
I would say they
I mean, public
wish
cloud.
not to be scared, but they don't realize how much effort it needs, because many application they are not many our customers they are not building anything just on from scratch from the beginning. They have a lot of systems and they have no idea how to handle everything to be at the end on cloud native basis. Yeah. So this transition period, which is between current state, which is like monolithic and old manners, and as I said, dinosaurs way how to develop application, and this cloud native, there is a huge gap, and those companies are really struggling how to make it.
Okay. Mira, what factors should company consider before adopting a cloud native approach? Is it always the right choice?
No, it's not. I think that there is no silver bullet. Obviously, it basically depends on the priorities of the business, what kind of customers they want to serve, how they want to serve them or those. And there is basically a question of example of companies successfully leverage public cloud technology to pivot or launch. I think we do not need to go too far. So Seznam is running from the local data centers, but Ivo Lukačović is having this side project Windy, which is serving the customers all over the globe, and this is completely on the public cloud using it, and they would not be able to run it from the local data centers in the quality and the experience they wanted to achieve for their customers. So I think this is exactly the way of thinking you need to have, what you want to achieve, where you want to serve, where you want to meet your potential customers. Either it's a B2C or B2B model, and have a good thinking process about it, whether you are ready from the applications perspective, whether you are ready from the mindset perspective, whether you are ready from the change management perspective, that you can really change the way how the people work and operate in their daily job in your company, and consider the benefits. Also consider the future, because you can become an incumbent and someone else who will just start in the cloud, being like the cloud native / digital native, will just eat your pie and eat your gross profit margins.
Can I add something? Sure. I'm not sure whether I consider it like either or. Like, do you think cloud native can be only in public cloud? Because Seznam, they have some resources locally, and they can still build some infrastructure and platform beyond, and operate their application in cloud native way. Can they?
Yeah, I don't think that the cloud native is about where you do it. It's about how you do it more. The public cloud, the hyperscalers give you the way that you can treat your customer in Prahalhotka the same way as the customers in Busan, Korea. If you do not need that, and you are serving the customers in like a local perimeter, you can do it from wherever you want.
So when you start with the questions, so we can focus on them. So we will just try to answer to the first question. Can you share an example of a company that successfully leverage public cloud technology to pivot or launch a new business model? So can you give us some examples from your perspective?
I guess from my point, not much, because we are pushing more our cloud services than others. So it's not really like public cloud service, this public one, global one. But of course, we have many customers building new applications and projects on top of our cloud.
Yeah, I think that that to launch a new business model, there is a plenty. It's Google, it's Uber, it's Airbnb, it's Trustpilot, Booking.com. Whoever you think about, to basically change or pivot. I think Netflix is like ideal use case for that. As you probably know, they were shipping the DVDs, like the physical ones, and they just decided, okay, we need to do this differently with a different gross profit margin and have a different scalability. So they went for the streaming service, and they would not be able to do it without the public cloud resources and the elasticity.
I just wanted to ask if you know someone more close to us, like to Czech Republic and some local market.
Yeah, so Windy was one example I shared. I think Livesport can be another example. So they are also serving the global audience from the public cloud. Rovi, for example, would not exist without the public cloud at all, and there will be many others.
So if it's all from this question, so we will also check the second one is from the TV. It's the last one. So what makes it so difficult for an organization to become a fully cloud native? What needs to happen to accelerate this? How not to suffocate the company? Thank you.
What's difficult about it? It's a holistic exercise where you are combining improvement in soft skills, improvement in hard skills of the people, architecture, processes, how you actually drive the development, processes, how you design the product or service, culture within the company. All of that you need to somehow change and align together with some probably new methodology adoption, like domain-driven design and the way how to decouple problem and how to actually make the software better aligned with the organizational structure. That leads to another huge change, which is like organization of teams, team topologies. You have cross-functional teams, and you don't want the centralized, operation centers, just to rely on tickets. So that's one portion of the change that needs to happen. And of course, another, the underlying one is the infrastructure. So it is not exactly easy to keep under control, all the automation that is happening across many layers. If you have your own data center, how do you provision networks? How do you provision, ever expiring certificates? It's a zillion things, And then if you add cloud to that mix, how do you keep the edge data under control and how? So the complexity mainly lies. The problem is the complexity and the holistic approach. If you don't take it, if you don't try to move everything together, you will most likely fail.
Anyone else?
I'm just thinking maybe it's can be related to like reconstructing of a whole old house. You have like old house from your grandma, and now you need to have modern house. And is it better to try to reconstruct it, or is it better to burn down and build a new one? I think it's the same.
Okay. So we will move to another topic. So, what are the key factors when deciding between building in-house solution and adapting some services like SaaS and PaaS?
Sorry, I was reading the new question. I didn't pay attention. Sorry.
I will try to one more time. So, what are the key factors when deciding between building in-house solution and adapting services like SaaS and PaaS and stuff like that?
On what level? Like infrastructure or software?
You can go layer by layer if you want. So
You can choose in your field, So.
I think from the perspective, if we are talking SaaS or build, I would consider from the business perspective whether, because the entrepreneurship is about allocation of scarce resources. So you have scarce resources in the company. Does it really make sense to allocate your scarce resources to build something which already exists on the market, like multiple times even, and is de facto standard? So it's like weighing whether you are having really strong hypothesis that you can really build something that will be so tailor-made for you that it will bring you additional gross profit margin, because it will be at the end about the profitability of the company and the money, or it's better to deploy your technical skilled resources to building something that customers are actually paying you for, and for everything else which is like non-core business, just use what is already on the market, because it was already invented by someone else.
Yeah, and my experience is if you are trying to build some software like yourself, then it's a really long way to get it to some state when someone already built it. Like you have a lot of application to track expenses in company, and if you are gonna build your own, you never be able to get it with so many features by yourself, because you will just make it at barely minimum what you need, and then just give up and never did this like nice bells and whistles, which all those applications have. So yeah, well, I would really consider using something existing only if you have like really good reason why not.
Well, I can actually borrow this domain-driven design methodology, basically, which says you have 3 domains of problems or solutions. You have the core domain, which is something where you can gain a competitive differentiator. So that is something that you should do custom development and should be under control, because otherwise, how will you get the competitive differentiation? On the opposite is the generic domain of problems. That is a commodity stuff. You cannot gain something. Can you gain some competitive advantage if you will build your own database engine? Maybe yes. If you are in a certain type of business, maybe yes. But in most of the cases, no. And I could go on. And then you have supporting domain, which is something in the middle of that. Well, at the moment, I'm doing it, but in the long run, it's not important. I could outsource it later on. So this is the framework or guidance.
Yeah, I think so that when we speak about the SaaS, so it's mainly about the databases, of course. And maybe you can call it PaaS, like the Kubernetes stuff, because a lot of companies tries to manage it themselves, and you know how it's going. So you are smiling, so you can share some experience, because
I mean, at the beginning, it's fun. It's a lot of new toys. As time goes, it becomes more and more mundane work. That what was fun, a year ago is just really terrible, something I have to do, and then you need to keep up. That's the biggest problem for most of the people is that what we see is people underestimate the complexity of the target solution at the beginning. And later on, they get overwhelmed with number of upgrades and concurrent versions and integrations you need to manage. And then you have customers for that. And then suddenly you have your Kubernetes, you have 5 internal projects, then you have 6 different tools to that. And that's in production, and suddenly you don't have time, you have been reallocated, funding from the management has stopped, and you're in a really horrible situation suddenly.
I think from platform point of view, it's same as why even cloud was invented, because nobody wants to, not any developer company, developer house wants to get bothered by this stuff, because as we heard, it's really complex, and those version issues is really annoying if you are not sure what you are doing. So yeah, well, nobody wants to take care of these things, and that's why we have cloud, and that's why we invented cloud. Not us, but like people generally. Yeah, so I would also pick this way. But as I said before, there might be some situations where it makes sense to try, because you have some, I don't know, specific requirements on performance conditions. It might be at some point better based on economics of the whole situation if you are really large enough. But for most of cases, I don't think it makes sense to try.
Yeah, I would just double down on what Petr said. So I think if you are able to build a moat around your business model with it, then it makes sense. But all the complexity is true. So it makes much less sense to do it anywhere else. So we are meeting the customers where exactly like a glue code someone wrote. It was fun. It's 8 years old. The guy is no longer in the company. No one wants to manage it, and there's like hundreds of different flavors of this, and this is becoming like a real burden.
So Petr, how do you decide between developing your own feature or integrating third-party services into your platform? You somehow answer it in your things, but maybe you can try it, to explain more.
So again, what is our competitive differentiator we are trying to get? Well, the simplicity and abstract away complexity for developers, developer experience, and our main focus is on helping companies with time to market. So whatever actually is contributing to these goals, developer experience, developers leaving work happy with smiling, you know, and business people receiving their features in production sooner. That's something that we do develop actually. But essentially, we do respect the fact that people or companies have made a lot of investments, and we do not try to be next Splunk or next Argo CD or next something. Those are commodity stuff, and there are other people who are way better at that. So either from the investment perspective, we want to be able to offer way how to leverage existing investment, while not trying to be expert on everyone or on everything. Plus, microservices should not be everywhere. Again, which part of company should be actually supported by microservices? Only there where rapid innovation and fast time to market is giving you advantage. That's probably not your master data management solution. You probably don't need to do your own Snowflake nor develop it in Agile, nor in microservices.
Okay. Michal, what are the most common reasons why your clients choose private cloud over the public cloud?
Yeah, it's basically that economics which I mentioned. There might be some special situations, as I said, like some specific performance requirements, processor frequencies, some specific workload that they would need, and that might be really expensive in those global public clouds. It's a little bit like question, because what do you mean by public cloud? Because we have also public cloud service ourselves. We call it like public cloud. It's shared infrastructure for many different customers. And then we have private clouds, and we can either build private clouds in our data centers or at customers' premises. And yeah, all those three situations have different reasons, and quite often it also makes sense to combine them. Like we have customer who has dedicated infrastructure for themselves, but if they need some extra performance, they will just like get extra in our public cloud and just join everything together and work on it like as a bundle. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So for this peaks, either seasonal or mostly seasonal, it doesn't make sense to like make some commitment to specific hardware, but it makes sense to use some pay-as-you-go resources which they can use when they need, and when they don't need, they don't have to use them and pay them.
And Mira, we will speak about public cloud. So there are services which are sometimes very expensive. So can you give some examples what services doesn't make sense to run in public cloud? I mean, just some scenario when it doesn't make sense to run it there? Or is it just true that you should run everything in the public cloud?
Again, I think it depends on what you want to achieve. For me, the definition of the public cloud is the hyperscaler. So someone who is having the data centers all over the globe with multiple zones and their own networking, ideally, etc. But coming back to this, if you have like a local site, local shop, you want to serve the customers in your city, it can be quite easy to run it on top of the public cloud, but it will probably also quite easy to do it in the local hosting and just serve the customers from there. Mainframe stuff, I would not probably go to the public cloud.
Single node instances of just VMs migrated. This lift and shift, if you have application which is running in a single instance and you just want to buy more compute in a single node, that's probably gonna kill you, I would say.
Yeah, it's good because we are moving to another topic, and it's cost of the cloud. Yeah. So why do so many businesses end up with unexpectedly high cloud cost? What are the key aspects which
Well, governance, I would say. If you underestimate the governance and you give everyone keys from the Azure portal and go shopping, well, that's probably end up bad, number one. Number two, some services are notoriously known to be demanding a good developers. If you don't know how to write good SQL queries, without a zillion full table scans, you should probably not be Aurora user, because that will eat you alive on costs. If you are, I've seen that somewhere, do a log debug, and then somebody tells you, well, before going to production, you need to remove all the debugs. Okay, find and replace, log debug to log.info, solved. And then you actually turn on some public cloud provider, I don't know, up inside CloudWatch or whatever, and it starts processing gigabytes of data per second. That's what we have witnessed. It could be very expensive.
Maybe you should try, private cloud.
Yeah, I would maybe say that it's also like part of business model of those hyperscalers, like to make it so much complicated that people might easily get lost in it. And that's why they need some consultant company like Revolgy or us to help them do some really good due diligence, try to figure out what they need, what they are using, how they are using that, what are some performance metrics, and do some really good calculation and evaluation to find out upfront that it might be they might be in a risk to pay quite a lot.
Yeah, I would maybe take it more general. There's with the public cloud or the hyperscaler predominantly, there is this like paradigm shift towards the cost. So it used to be the way that the CIO would sit with the CTO. They would create like five years plan saying, we will do the capital expenditures, we will buy this amount of servers, deploy it in this data center, and this is basically the playground for everyone who is technical in the company. In the hyperscaler world, it's not like that. So basically on the fingertips of the developers, they decide what API they will call, how frequently, what kind of virtual machine they will deploy, and where, what will be the egress networking costs, etc., because they decide about the design and the architecture of the stuff. So it's like fundamentally decentralized, and there needs to be a different way how to make a governance around this, and there is this magic FinOps word, which some of you probably heard about, which is about is consistently trying to push this direction and make it better.
And
I would say that that's a different viewpoint, because exactly as that's a perfect question, when you are a software architect and somebody comes, so you will deliver this new solution. You have 2 out of 200 requirements known, and tell me how many API calls per second are you going to be to what services, give me a list and prediction for 2 years. Then it becomes a little bit difficult.
there are some things which are pretty, expensive in the cloud, and you can't imagine. And there's one more thing that, I hope that everyone uses the cloud. So maybe that you can set some limit just for the cost. You can just set the alert that when you, but if it happens during the night and something goes wrong, and then the bills are just 10 times more, so maybe you are not so happy, right? So.
Well, that 100% right. The way, for example, how we cope with that with Code Now is you can have a cap on the compute in Kubernetes cluster. So you will somehow buy some number of hours, whatever, and then it will start saturating the CPUs actually, and your application inside the cluster will slow down, but it will not eat more. So, for example, it makes sense in my perspective to have a non-production development, I don't know, database, cache, small broker instance running inside of the cluster, and then have a big one actually provided by the hyperscaler in production, because they are way better in operating, I don't know, highly available Postgre than you will be yourself trying to replicate it with some, I don't know, Zalando operator.
It's a good one. So, Petr, sorry, Mira, you. No. Yeah, I'm just looking for you, but sorry for that. You mentioned FinOps. So, what methods and tools do you recommend for efficient cloud cost management?
There are plenty. So, but again, I think it's about the framework and the methodology, and that tools are actually secondary. So you can either use the first party, which are part of the each and every hyperscaler is having some cost control. What as was mentioned, that's also the reason why there is no hard cut on the budget. So there are just the budget alerts. There is the business continuity. They do not they don't want to jeopardize your business continuity, so they will alert you. So it's your decision whether you want to turn it on off or not. And also they are running a business, so they are all about revenue expansion. They want to to get more and more from you, and they want to add more value that you are willing to pay for. From the FinOps perspective, I think as I was describing, that it's a lot of decentralized decision. I think the first thing to do is basically to show back to the people. So the people who are causing the costs, incurring the costs, they should understand that the costs are incurred. That's the, I would say, simpler part of the equation. The harder part is to show them what the cost is for. And I don't mean the Kubernetes or VM resources. I mean, what kind of added value is this bringing to the end customer of the company? So there should be some unit metric. If you are delivering food, the cost of one delivery or something, where you can actually allocate the technological cost. Because if you are not able to allocate that, why you are running it?
I would say shit in, shit out. If you have wrong architecture, poorly written code, it will be very expensive in public cloud. Or in on-prem deployment, it can be less expensive. You have the cap of the capacity, but then what will be hurt is performance, reliability, stability. The hyperscalers, what they will solve for money, one problem, they have infinite resources. So suddenly you are growing to 10 gigabits. Okay, they will handle it, but you will pay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this FinOps methodology is really like good one, but of course it's not like nothing or everything. You can implement like step by step and always like measure what processes and what procedures still worth for you to do that. Of course, this practice is not like much new because for example, same approach is used in marketing. You always measure something based on some unit, like some conversion, some order or whatever, and always trying to allocate those costs which you have to get this target which you want to get. So this is pretty the same, but it might be quite challenging to set all those processes to be able to have such visibility on data and allocate them like really precisely to those teams, to those developers who are actually responsible for them.
Yeah, because from my experience, I try to find some tools for FinOps, like for more companies, but I think it doesn't work. And it doesn't work because they don't understand what FinOps is about, because they thought that you can just choose the tools and they will help you with that, but it's not about it. So, my question tries to answer the question if there are such a tools which can help with that, or you should maybe ask the companies which can help with it. I mean the third party.
Yeah, there are definitely tools that can help with that, but they will not solve it on its own. It's just a tool,
Yeah.
So it's good to have someone who has the experience, who can guide you through it, implement it, possibly provide a managed service for it. If I can recommend something, there was FinOps is part of the Linux Foundation. FinOps Foundation is one of the subchapters. There is this FinOps X. They do twice a year. I was last year in Barcelona for the Europe version. There was a good talk. It's on YouTube from the company called Nubank. Do you know Nubank? Nubank is a Brazil company. They are publicly listed. They started as a small fintech, and they decided to actually serve the underserved market, where the classic financial institutions in Brazil were not able to serve the people because it was too expensive for them. So they basically came up with the totally digital business model. They have 110 million customers. 110. They want to have 1 billion in 10 years. So their way how they are very, very aggressive regarding what the technology cost is to serve lending or whatever service we are providing is really crazy, I would say, and they have a quite strong methodology about. They have a strong set of tooling, and this is like a board topic. So they have a call every month with the board, discussing where we are, what are the metrics, what is the gross profit margin of this particular tool, and the costs are basically the technology cost, parex, personal expenditures related to that, and everything else. And this is like the way how they run the company.
Yeah, but I would say there is no tool solving everything, as was said, and there is no any external company helping to solve everything unless you have support from management and a really hard push that this is what management wants and this is what company needs. Otherwise, if you don't have this waterfall from the top management, it can never start happening because nobody would care.
Mm-hmm. So, Petr, can your platform somehow help with it? I mean, your clients. So, and if not, so what are the what simple steps can business take immediately to get their cloud spending under the control?
Well, look, there is multitude of services you can buy from hyperscalers, from cloud providers. Some of them, or one of them we focus on mainly is Kubernetes. You can run a lot of stuff in Kubernetes. You do not have to always leverage all of the features, it can be as simple as lift me up this container and just make it run. It can be very complex with predictive auto-scaling features, multi-region. It can get complex. But if you have workload that can possibly run in Kubernetes, as I said, you can have a cap on a Kubernetes cluster costs. And that's a very simple way how to start with getting costs under control. If you will give a small Kubernetes cluster to some teams, or you can actually give them slices in some namespaces and make them run your workload there. I know how much it costs. And if you are out of compute resources, just come to me and you can take a look very quickly. And you are good with single feature called labeling. And if you properly label the workloads, it can be team, it can be application identifiers, it can be business stakeholder, it can be business process. It's up to you how you want to track the costs. But with labeling, you can achieve a lot. It can be easily automated. And of course, it will not solve the problem that you are leveraging Event Grid for something and CosmoDB for something else. But I would say it is a good start, and it can solve a good portion, good chunk of all problems. Code Now solves all of these topics inside of the Kubernetes cluster out of the box, so developers do not have to care.
Sure.
Yeah, I basically agree. This is the start point that you have like organized things, organize your workload, understand your workload, and then you can see some discrepancies, like everything is quite small numbers and then it's something huge, and you can take a look and check whether it's like reasonable that it's huge or whether it's not reasonable. And then you can just dig into it more and find out where those money are getting out, and maybe be able to make some optimization to make it smaller.
Yeah, so I will finally get to the tooling. So there's I think now even like a third generation of the FinOps tooling for the hyperscalers. So the first generation, there was this original tools like Cloud Health. I don't know whether you know it. So it was acquired by VMware, if I'm not mistaken. So that's one. Then there is a second wave of tools like FinOut or Cloud Zero or others, where they are focused more on bringing all the technology related tools together to visualize, because it's naive to think that with technology the cost is just about the public cloud. You will buy Snowflake, you will buy Databricks, you will buy Datadog, you will buy additional stuff, and you want to have the understanding how these costs are actually distributed towards your primary business domains, what you are trying to achieve for your customers. And I've seen just recently, like the third generation, there are startups which are coming more from, I would say, cybersecurity way of thinking. So they treat the anomalies that you were mentioning as a threat. So they basically say, okay, this is something happening which shouldn't be happening. It's a gap. We should, put into the place the remediation. They just don't do it for the cybersecurity vulnerabilities. They do it for the cost of the clouds.
There's one thing actually that came to my mind as you were talking, and that is probably not all teams internally, not all business processes, and not all problems are equal within the company. Therefore, unifying approach is sometimes hurting, because if you have 24/7 support everywhere, and I have infinite scaling everywhere, and I have a high redundancy everywhere, because I have unified the platform in such a way, well, then of course, running your, I don't know, travel expenses, the application will be way too much expensive, you don't need Splunk everywhere. You can leverage open source Loki for some logging. On the other hand, if you have, again, gigabit per second actually data ingestion, open source Loki won't do the job. But so the point is, well, to recognize the business need and the business context of what tools, what services is being consumed.
Okay, thank you. Before me moving to the last part, I know that there are some questions, but they are related to the second part of the panel discussion, so I will just keep them for the second part. So the last topic is, when does multi-cloud make sense? And when it's just another layer of the complexity? So what do you mean?
Multi-cloud or hybrid cloud?
I think multi-cloud. And multi-cloud can be also the hybrid one. So.
Well, what we are seeing recently is multi-cloud because of GPU costs. You have, dedicated cloud providers that are only focused or mainly focused on GPUs. They have a very good cost, but your CPU workload is somewhere else. Or you are nowadays running everything in one cloud provider because you are there for 3 years, and suddenly you want to purchase this new thing because you need it, because AI. Right? So, and suddenly what? Are you gonna purchase the most expensive GPU per hour just because you are already there? Or are you gonna solve the multi-cloud problem? That could be one thing. Another thing is redundancy. If you are operating something really critical, I know multi-region and everything, but we have seen, those fails actually happening. So then I can imagine you have a backup somewhere else. There are regulatories nowadays coming in the banking world, for example, where the reliance on a single provider from a single nation is a systematic risk. So you need actually to have the multi-cloud solution. So there are these, but it's typically big motivators like that, I would say.
I think also the fact what Petr mentioned before about this economy and cutting costs and different application and different needs and different expectation from business, it's also which can be related, because sometimes you don't need to have as much expensive service for dev test, but you need something better for production. So maybe you can save some money on dev test and use something like specialized for this kind of workload, maybe buying some spare workload which won't bother you if they would cut you when they need, and just leverage that. We had some use case several years ago, having big software house always releasing new versions, like I don't know, once a few months, once 2 or 3 months, and they were actually testing this software on many different versions, on operating systems and everything like that. So their expectation was, yeah, we will just build up 100, maybe 200 different virtual machines with different versions. We'll run automatically these tests, and then they will just trash it and leave it. So they were not as much bothered whether it's gonna happen on Monday, on Wednesday, and they could just buy some spare resources which we had for this use case, knowing that in case we need those resources back, we can take them and just like let them know that they are not available anymore, and they will need to repeat this test like 2 days later, for example. But the cost for them was much lower comparing to using production grade service for such use case.
Yeah, I haven't seen a 50-50 split, never. So it's usually close to 95-5. So there is one cloud which is primary, the other one is secondary. It can be redundancy. Usually it's business continuity planning to have some side because of some compliance/regulatory requirements. Also, it can be you are testing whatever new business model, new app, so you want to try whether the neighbor has greener grass, so you want to give it a try. Also, it can be a financial leverage, so you want to show your primary cloud provider that you can do also someone else, so they should be open enough to find good commercials for you.
Yeah, from my experience, I saw two types of examples for using multi-cloud. First is from the startup perspective, that they wanted to get the free usage, so they would just try to use free clouds and get the most free credits and run their production there, and it worked for them for 2 years. Yeah, but okay, it's just for startups. But from the big companies, I see that there's one good example of, because in cloud there are two very expensive things. First is the API calls to the storage, object storage, and also the network outbound of the cloud. And for some corporates, I saw that they are using some third-party services, SaaS, and there was a lot of network traffic to this third party. They have, and one of the cloud provider has some special contract with the third party company, and the network traffic just costs 1/3 of the price, because the standard price was similar, but because of this deal with the cloud provider, it was much less. But it's just special case. And another thing is the object storage, because, for example, AWS provides something special which other competitors doesn't have it. So they have some piece of data they have to store on AWS because they need some functionality or features which doesn't support the others. So yeah, it's from my perspective.
But can you afford to have vendor lock-in?
Yeah. Vendor cost is so high, so I think that you don't care about vendor lock-in.
But it may get even higher.
Yeah, of course.
If your cost of goods sold is 10%, then probably not that big of a problem. But I think that's a very good point. If what you do is a software that needs to ingest a lot of data from your customers, then probably it makes sense to deliver this software or have the distribution model in a way that you deploy it as a pass to the customer's cloud providers, and then you don't know who will purchase your solution, because if somebody who is producing a ton of data that needs to be sent to your app, I don't know, I will create whatever new observability stack, and I will ingest log lines from somebody. And if the log lines are coming from AWS workload, I need to have my app in AWS, because otherwise it will not make sense. It will be so expensive to consume my service that so I need to develop in a multi-cloud fashion, because I don't know where I will be distributing my app to.
Okay, Mira, can you please share what are the main reasons for your clients for considering a multi-cloud strategy? Some examples.
Yeah, would just repeat myself. So it's I think that the number one is compliance. So they have some regulatory framework where they basically need to go and to show and to to prove that they are under control of their business continuity planning. So they usually decide, okay, we are on the cloud A, we want to have a cloud B as a let's say disaster recovery or the business continuity site, or they are having like a new whatever product idea launch, and they decided that they would like to try these new cool features of the different cloud providers that they are currently using. So those are the two predominant cases.
Michal, how do you handle the management and operation of the multi-cloud environments for your customers? And when we speak about the multi-cloud, I mean hybrid model. So.
Yeah, well, we are always trying to tailor like those services for customers, like exactly individually. It's not like that we have some basic pattern working for everyone. It's more like because we always were focused on having tight relationship with customers and really listen their needs and trying to find the best solutions for them. So it's basically these discussions which we have on different levels with pre-sales, sales, technical guys to figure out some way how to make it work.
Okay, we can skip before the break to some questions. So first is, can you recommend any opinionated cloud-native microservices framework like Dapper, which works better in the cloud?
After so many years spent in development and architecture, I am not really fan of huge frameworks that abstract away too much. That's why we with Code Now actually try to solve the problem on the level of automation of underlying and solve it on the platform level. So then, I don't know, what we are using mostly, what we see, Dapper is good, but I believe that if you are writing a microservice that is asynchronously communicating with somebody else, what do you need? You need contract management, you need so for example, Event Catalog is a very good tool, I would say, for keeping publishers, subscribers, events, and schemas under control. How you make it happen to the code? I do not have personal experience with Dapper, and we don't use these kind of frameworks that do heavy lifting like that.
Anyone else?
I'm sorry, I'm not much familiar with this. I'm not such deep technically.
No problem. So we can try one more question. Maybe with the rise of AI-driven DevOps, AOps, how do you see the role of the cloud-native tools evolving? Will AI replace traditional monitoring and management tools?
For sure, at some point. No, nobody knows what's gonna be with AI in next years because it's going really fast. And of course, having some insight and some patterns recognized by AI is always good. But I think that some basic things were already implemented in different tools. AI strategies to analyze data. This area tools from VMware, including Cloud Health, for sure they have some AI integrated inside, and just searching for some patterns. Not this full AI, this generative AI, but some these methods of analyzing data.
So last question, and then there will be break. So, is it better to put effort in being vendor cloud agnostic? So agnostic or to use cloud specific products?
It depends, but I do believe that if you make a strategic choice that you want to go with a particular cloud, you should use the benefits that the cloud is providing. And it's very hard to stay vendor agnostic or cloud agnostic. If you are in the cloud, you will use their managed SQL, you will use their version of managed Kubernetes because it just makes sense. It's the easiest way and the most beneficial way from my perspective.
I would say that it depends. Not all problems within the company are equal. So I 100% agree that if I have Snowflake, probably I will put all the surroundings and the things that are actually feeding data inside near there. Nonetheless, that's not all the workload. And then I would say I want to have an option, and I can write a solution in a way that it is leveraging Postgre, and who's the provider of the Postgre, whether it's 1, 2nd, or 3rd, I can later on choose. So I would say there are definitely problems worth of writing the stateless part, being completely cloud agnostic and not relying. Of course, if I want to leverage Cognito for I don't know something, it can be very expensive to write custom alternative, and it can cripple my business case. So it depends. It's hard to say, but definitely I see that there is always part of the company and some problems that are worth of solving in a cloud agnostic way.
I think another thing, another aspect might be if your aim or your strategy is to, or your business continuity plan needs to leverage different cloud providers, then it's better for you to be cloud agnostic and use some basic standard features rather than optimize every part of workload for some specific products and specific cloud providers.
Mm-hmm. So, hi again. So we will start the second part, and before we start, there will be some questions. So
yes, I would like to know my audience or our audience. So I have a few questions for you. First one, it's gonna be easy, no worries. First one is, do you have an idea how big your cloud consumption, like in total for your company? Is it in rates of thousands of euros approximately?
just raise your hands if you know it.
Just so is it in tens, thousands euros? Okay.
I see some hands there.
So is it in 100,000 euros? So I didn't. Okay. So I didn't see much hands. So does it mean is it lower than than thousands of euros monthly?
Per day.
I thought monthly.
Or maybe they just don't know.
Maybe they just know.
Or they are shy.
And so second question, I would be curious about the volatility of your consumption. Like, is your consumption in, I don't know, it may be like day-night consumption difference, or some seasonal, or some like special events, or something like, I don't know, for example, if you start some promo on some TV channel or whatever, then you have like some peak. So is this difference like this low part is 50% approximately than this high consumption.
I think you have to ask somehow differently.
Okay.
Just that people know that they should raise their hands.
So I don't know how to ask. So is your consumption difference between low consumption and high consumption big, or is it just like a really small difference? Like if you have some, I don't know, some low season and high season, is the difference big or small?
Okay, I can answer it from myself.
Okay.
Because, thank you. Because I had worked for a big e-commerce company, and we run on private cloud. Yes, everything we manage on our own, data centers, and there was problem with, of course, as you mentioned, like utilization of the servers. So we thought about like migration to public cloud, and we ran there some small services to find out what will be different. And it was because it was e-commerce, so we relied on seasons. Yes, mainly Christmas season, and the gap there was 40-50% of utilization. So that makes for us sense to use public cloud. But finally, after some analysis, which I'm not there for, I think 2-3 months, but the analysis was about it's expensive to run just in the public cloud. So we planned to use public cloud for cover the seasons. And from this perspective, it helped us a lot. because utilization of hardware to buy hardware, new servers, utilize them for 5 years is really a hard task.
Thanks. I think if you have more deep talk, so you can leave it for the networking part. So
Yeah, sure. It's worth try.
sure. So maybe we can start. Okay, so flexibility versus governance. It's nice talk. So how do you strike the right balance between giving developers flexibility and maintaining control over the cloud environment?
Is the question from there as well?
How
do you balance rapid
it
innovation?
was the reason
with
why
the-
I didn't read it
Okay.
in the first part, because it's my question.
Yeah. I think that there is, a lot of different compliance frameworks depending what kind of business you do. So if you are in the banking, there is something. If you are in providing like a B2B solution, usually to the US customers, you will end up with the SOC 2. Sure, quite soon. If you are providing some health-related stuff, you will end up with the HIPAA compliance. And I think that at the end of the day, it's about avoiding this old concept of security by obscurity. This is not just by for the security, but for the compliance itself. And you need to prove, whoever is auditing whatever kind of compliance you have, that you have it in control. And in control means that you just evaluated the risks, and some risks you just accept it. You are okay with that, which means that you are in control. So, because sometimes I see that people are like, getting around really stressed out, saying, yeah, we need to do this and that and that. But if they do like a proper analysis of, what is the probability of the risk occur, what is the actual impact, they can just, do something to decrease the probability, and they said, we will accept the rest.
I think that also this first evaluation and understanding what you need is really important, because then you can adjust your processes. Like if you are in bank or in some health business, then you probably would need to add some security guide to your DevOps teams, and so there is someone really involved in the whole process of deploying and the whole process of development, and sees all those potential troubles right away, not doing any like analysis much more later. But if probably you are not in bank on business and you are not as much concerned about such tight regulations, then you will probably approach it a little bit differently and not dedicated person to such topic.
So
I would just say that isolation, encapsulation, and segregation. So generally, I can give you a lot of freedom inside a segregated, well-isolated environment. So if I am able to solve a problem of, for example, how to isolate Kubernetes namespace from a production workload, so you can have a root administrator within the namespace, well, why not? Then you can spin up anything. And I have the costs under control because compute is fixed. And you cannot break anything. So then I believe if you want to achieve agile, short time to market, avoid a lot of planning, and move forward more quickly, and do this data-driven, feature-driven development, this is the way forward, for example. And you can still keep the compliance, because your production is zero trust, for example, a concept from your non-production.
okay, so Mira, how can companies ensure that developers have enough flexibility while maintaining governance and over clouds environments?
I think that the hyperscalers can help them. They are usually having like a quite nicely written methodologies and the documentation regarding what kind of services are compliant with the particular regulation, and also there are some blueprints and best practices how to basically be, for example, HIPAA compliant or stuff like that. So I would not reinvent the wheel. I would just go for the blueprints and start there, because it's in their best interest to also have startups running there, and startups or about crazy rapid speed of and the pace of the innovation. So I would take it from this angle, and if this is not enough, there is companies like Revolgy to help with whatever is needed.
No.
Revolgy to the rescue. Okay, Michal, you said something about client concerns. So, how do you address your client concerns about security and control in the hybrid cloud environment?
Yeah, well, we try to be as much transparent as we can. We even, those major customers who were concerned, we even took to data centers to check how it looks, how there is the security provided by the data center operator. And also because many of those good data centers, they can even share some audits to you and to customers, so you can also provide them. And we actually had or have customer who is working with medical data, one Czech company, and they were quite happy about everything we provided, and we just they even conducted some external audit on that, not just themselves, but they hired someone, and everything went through. So this transparency is usually what helps us, and we can show that there's not any problem inside.
Okay, so we can move to the security part. Yeah, everybody loves it. So, what are the most common security mistakes you see companies making when moving to the cloud?
I would just say the number one, which is not adhering to the least privilege principle. So everyone can access everything, and that's the gate for the devil in, I would say.
And then quite contrary is, we will rather lock everyone out, and therefore nobody can do anything. But no, what we see on the application level typically is that developers from the monolithic times were used that somebody else solved the networking problem, open ports, opening, receiving connections, whatever. Suddenly, when going to tools or execution environments like Kubernetes, it can become complicated. Node ports, cluster ports, what is open, how to configure ingress, egress, how to solve the load balancing, etc. And so therefore, to avoid this complex configuration, they rather leave everything open for everyone. And then suddenly you can get easily to the situation that you have open ports between development and production environments. And then accidents happen.
Yeah, I think unfortunately there are still companies not accepting the bare minimum, like, I don't know, two-factor authorization. There are still companies using some generic admin accounts to log into some cloud providers and share them across teams, and yeah, this is way to hell.
Yeah, there was this story of taking the customer to the data center. I remember like 15 years ago, the hyperscalers were open to do that as well, but they stopped like 12 years ago, maybe even more. They just said this is increasing the risk, because if there are someone you don't know, it's your customer, but you don't know who is the person, is just walking around. It's nice, you can show them how everything is, full of colors, how your USB works, how do you know if there is a fire, what will happen, etc., etc. But it's just increasing the risk. They also stop sharing basically the pictures from the data centers because the same reason. So this is like moving into more like secrecy direction, and you have a third party to trust. There is usually someone who is auditing whatever setup is in the data center and whatever ISO or whatever else. They need to be compliant, so they will provide you with the reports or SOC 2 or whatever. So this is one angle. Another angle is that the cybersecurity business is one of the most booming ones right now, and there is a lot of different companies which are traditional. There is a lot of great startups growing like hell. So apparently this topic is very hot, and it's really smart to not underestimate it, because it can get you into serious trouble very fast.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want to say that probably one can't fully afford to believe only to developers, because developers are developers, and they are not like people educated in security and everything like that. And you can see that like recently there was this problem with this new system for this construction works approvals, and it appeared that people could just read and even edit documents of anyone else inside. So yeah, well then, if you don't have anyone responsible for security in particular, then it's just not covered, and you can't just believe that it's gonna happen just itself.
One just tiny thing from the, again, Kubernetes namespaces, open port stuff. If you add to the mix the fact that you are downloading dependencies from public repositories without any scanning, the chances that nowadays you will, through Node Package Manager, download ransomware that will run inside of your container with open ports to the rest of your company, tunneling through towards your S3 storage with admin password credentials on basic house, then you're that can happen quickly.
Nice to hear it, because I have another question, and it's how do you handle security and compliance within your SaaS model?
Well, number one, we have a lot of standard deployment patterns where actually zoning, isolation, and segregation on the networking level is step number one. Code now is PaaS. We don't do SaaS anymore. So we install code now into your environment, and therefore this problem is always checked prior actual activation of code now. And later on, when running inside, well, it's automation. It's platform team and security team is there to help us with the default templating. That's done once, and then code now automatically applies that templates everywhere on creation of Git repository, on creation of environment, on deployment of some workload, whatever. So basically, we automate service mesh and close the ports automatically, and the developer doesn't even know about it. So, yeah.
So Michal, I'd like to hear something about the hardware, and the cloud itself. So about the security. So what are the key difference in security approaches between private and public cloud?
We are back again to the question, what is public cloud, because we didn't agree fully here. But basically,
we can just call it right now like AWS,
okay.
Azure, and GCP. So.
Yeah, well, in case if you talk about private cloud, something which you have in your premises, then of course it's much harder to keep some security level as you need. Of course, those processes by Microsoft, by Amazon, they are fully developed, and they are improving them like on daily basis, basically. So the chance of getting through into their systems is really low. On the other hand, if you run this infrastructure inside some data center which customer has in his or her administration and maintenance, then you need to rely on many things around. Of course, there are some methods like I don't know, NSX on VMware, avoiding some unnecessary traffic and microsegmentations and everything like that. But it's definitely more challenging.
Yeah, I have this interesting story. I was back in 2015, 2014 in one of the big Austrian banking groups which was the agenda of the meeting, was to basically discuss how the security at that time at the public cloud is done. And there was the CISO of this banking group starting the meeting with, guys, I think this is useless to be here because I have like 12 security guys in my team. And I just seen that this hyperscaler has 950 security engineers from the best US universities. Everyone wants to work there. It's a love brand. So what we are even talking about, how do you want to compare what we are doing here by what they are doing? So that's, as I would, like summarize this.
Yeah, I would maybe add that the same difference or like similar difference in different scale is between local providers of cloud and local server rooms in companies. Yeah, because people who has like, I don't know, 1, 2 admins, they can't afford to have anyone focus on security. Yeah, those local cloud providers who grew to some point, they can afford it.
What I saw is that security, I mean, the security from the software point of view and cloud point of view, it's quite good, I think, in most of the cases. But they just don't care about, for example, accesses. Like the AM model, they don't care about it. I mean, especially in the public clouds. When we speak about the AWS with their account system, or in GCP with their project system. So, Mira, what do you think that how these companies should, handle this?
Yeah, so two angles. One, we already mentioned this least privilege. So I would avoid this. No one can do anything, but I would go for like very reasonable allocation of the access rights, really for the roles that really need it, and allocation the proper people or whatever technical stuff to the particular roles. That's one angle. Another angle is that none of the hyperscalers says that they will solve it magically for you. They all have so-called shared responsibility model. So they are saying, hey, this is what is managed by us. We are fully in control. We will make sure that this will be up to the state of the art, best of breed, whatever is needed for you to operate your infrastructure with us. But there are another layers where you, as a Mr. Customer, you are responsible. So you need to take care of that.
I would be curious. I heard about it a lot, but never see that working. Do you have some experience using this dynamic access rights, like some automatic system when someone applies based on ticket and gets some rights leveraged to his account?
Yeah, it's I've seen this more from this zero trust principle. So there is this solution which is called Beyond Corp. I don't know whether you are familiar with it, which basically is working with the context for the access. So if you are in the company network, you are same person, you have 2 MFA, whatever, it will give you the access to more data than if you are in Korea, for example, because there is a different like risk perimeter from the perspective of the access context.
In my experience, the identity and access management and generally the security, anything in hyperscalers, it's very complex, and the problem they are solving is they need to be ready for any kind of configuration and for any kind of solution. They have a very broad set of services, and they don't know whether they will be supporting American Express or whether they will be supporting a company with a single developer. So then, of course, the problem is that their configuration model for security is very huge and very complex to comprehend. And I think that most of the companies just give up on the complexity, and therefore they just reduce it to some whatever instead of hiring someone professional, I would say. So, and if you don't understand that, you cannot automate it.
Okay, so we can move to another field, and it's Clouds Pro. So how do you identify Clouds Pro, and what are the best strategies to prevent it?
Sorry, how do I what?
How do you identify Clouds Pro, and what are the best strategies to prevent it?
Sprawl. I don't understand the.
Like,
What?
like run, like huge run without any boundaries and rules for
Yep.
million clouds.
Yeah, so
Thank you for the
so it
clarification,
grows
sir.
uncontrollable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, FinOps, platform teams, governance, configuration management. I don't know. That's how do you get new service? If you have self-service, it's probably through some portal. Somebody has to give you access to some, I don't know, perimeter. You know that is budgeted and that is measured and evaluated regularly, and therefore it cannot grow out of control. Unless you have unlimited budget, of course.
But it also depends. We are checking these anomalies for the customers of ours, and we had a customer who was basically very steady, and then growing 5 times, like 500% more from month to month. So we're just calling, saying, "What's happening?" We'll say,
Spending.
spending. He says, "Everything is okay. We just grew the revenue like 20 times." So the actual gross margins scissors are opening. So they were happy about growing only 500.
Sure.
I think allowing some flexibility to the team, which is inside some like specified playground, can also help, because if you have some flexibility, you are not much eager to just buy or order something just behind someone's back, maybe.
So, Michal, if you have the micro, so what are the biggest challenges in managing a complex cloud environment, and how do you address them?
I think you always need to have in mind this economic point of view, because I think it's always needed to answer question yourself what it brings and what it takes, because of course having multiple options gives you flexibility based on some tariffs and some rates from those providers, but on the other hand the complexity of maintenance and just managing everything gets much higher, because you need to have specialists for that cloud, and then you need to do this calculation quite well, whether those savings which you might get can actually balance those costs which you have.
Mira, how do you help clients detect and eliminate underutilized or unnecessary cloud services?
Yeah, that's actually another angle of either the FinOps platforms are doing this, or the first party cloud native tools are also doing this. So you have this, for example, in the GCP there is their FinOps hub. So they are actually providing you with the recommendations, both for the anomalies but also for you should resize, because this is just simply too big. So there is as for everything, automation is there.
Mm-hmm.
But as for everything, the context is important. It just doesn't make sense just say, yeah, let's do it. It needs to have some further evaluation whether this is really a wise thing to do.
And did you think about to use some AI? I mean, your own AI?
Yeah, we do have some machine learning anomalies detection model as well that we are providing to the customers. But it's also challenging to keep track with the development on site of the hyperscaler. I don't mean with the introduction of the new services. That's still something that you can somehow learn and train the machine learning model. But if the particular need or challenge is important for a lot of customers, it sooner rather than later will appear as a first party in the particular public cloud. So basically, your investment into developing something for a company like ours is basically going nowhere.
Plus they have the AI and a lot of contextual data like that available, billing and runtime, and even data which is sometimes difficult to get to. So,
exactly.
Okay, so we can move to the last part, and it's about maximizing developer productivity. So, what are the best way to leverage the cloud to improve developer efficiency?
Cloud, I would say multiple things. How to improve developer productivity, efficiency in the first place. Do one thing and do it well. So if you are a Java developer, if you are a Python developer, if you are subject matter expert on risk, whatever, do that. Don't try to be also expert on Terraform, Ansible, the way how to upgrade and migrate Redis with zero downtime. That's probably because that will, instead of delivering value, you will find yourself, last year reading Stack Overflow and Medium.com. This year you will be probably talking to Claude or ChatGPT, nonetheless, because it's not your core expertise. It's a trial and error, as always. Okay, here's an answer. I will try that. Doesn't work. Aha, doesn't work. That's hindering productivity. That's definitely. So be focused. Actually, that's number one thing, and don't be afraid to give away some quote freedom because platform team is giving you something ready-made. They know, or they should know what they are doing, and it's always a two-way discussion. So this is limiting me too much, but on the other hand, they should do the thing to limit your context switching. If you are focused on a single thing and are not switching context in your mind, that's the way how to increase productivity. And then there is really another things like automation, and stuff. But I would say this is the most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure whether cloud can help with productivity, but maybe cloud native. Like if you apply all those principles into your work, then and if you apply them right, then you probably get better productivity to deliver what business needs and what products needs on time and in good speed. Also, what can be helpful is those things which we talked about before, those FinOps and this kind of things, because it's not probably helping productivity of your job, but it's probably helping with quality of the outcome. Because if you just create something inefficient by performance, by some API calls, that someone will probably notice.
I think Petr summarized it as a subject matter expert quite nicely.
Okay, we can back to Petr if he's the expert. So
I can draw 7 perpendicular.
what tools or approaches have helped you to accelerate the development of your platform?
What tools have helped us?
Yep. And
I'm not developing that. You should ask those guys. That's.
You should know it.
I don't know these days. For example,
Not just tools, but maybe even the approaches. So.
Okay, well, elephant in the room, AI. So yes, contextual AI in the code editor, definitely. That's improving. If you know what you're doing, then it's really helping you. Of course, if you don't know what you're doing, then it won't save you. But that can help a lot, I would say. I don't know what tools. Recently, we have been experimenting a lot with Pulumi, for example. I don't know, it's opinionated a lot of things. We were using Concourse previously, and now they're switching to Pulumi. Seems to be way forward, like simplifying a lot of stuff. So, yeah.
I think maybe you should say that what your platform is based on, that you are using a lot of SaaS, we can call it, or they make software, and it helps you, I think, right?
Well, what helps is the integrated tool chain. What helps is having information at your fingertip. That there is this question: how operations necessarily communicate to devs in code now if something is not scaling? I would say not only if something is not scaling, how do they communicate in general? So clarity of the message, how many words you need to use to pass the context to somebody you want when you need to talk to somebody. Something is failing in production. What? It's application X and semantic version. The fact that it consists of 26 smaller components, you don't have time in 2 a.m. when it's burning. So short message. And code now tries to actually focus on the thing that everything is linkable. So I will just copy paste URL, paste it to the Slack, there you go, you click it and you see what I see, immediately. I don't have to screen share. You can screen share, of course. But, so that's number one thing, navigability, you actually need to be able to navigate release, environment, release, component, pipeline run, static analysis results, and who did approve this thing to the production, and it's actually to be blamed. So this is helping this integrated tool chain. Otherwise, when speaking, well, Sonar, of course, is excellent tool for static analysis, for example. Tekton, perfect for CI, cloud native CI engine. Argo CD, excellent continuous delivery tool, for sure, to name few. Yeah.
So I think it's just about that you don't need to develop everything yourself, just like using tools which already did the job well, right? And that's it. So
I would say if you want to do, if you want to focus on software development, on business logic, on doing the important part, sooner or later you will find out that you need at least 10 to 15 tools integrated. Otherwise, you're always context switching, because where are the logs? Where are the logs for this container, for this cluster over at that cloud? So if you don't have all of that somehow integrated, you're still context switching and searching for information instead of coding.
Yeah, Michal, you said that you are not sure how the hybrid clouds can help the developers to develop faster. But for me, the cloud is just not only about the platform itself, but about also the software as a service, infrastructure as a service, and this can help, I think, because you have some DevOps or system engineer, or how you call it, the team, but they have other things, so maybe they don't have to do that everything on themselves. They can buy or use some of the existing solution, and they can focus more on the helping the developers to deliver something. So are there any best practices you can recommend to companies which are looking for improved productivity in the hybrid cloud, in the hybrid or multi-cloud environments?
You mean like developers?
Yeah. Or maybe you can just say it general, like for the companies.
Yeah, well, I maybe can share one example from our experience. I wouldn't name the company, but it's one retail company, and they did quite a lot of big moves in their systems, and because they have in-house development team, and they did quite a lot of systems trying to move from old monolithic way of development into cloud native, and they didn't succeed much well. And the thing is that those developers were not able to do this mind shift to this cloud native, and they didn't have anyone to give them advice and to be trusted from this point of view. So we tried to tell them, like, yeah, well, this is wrong because it's not cloud native, and it's not gonna work in Kubernetes, and it's not gonna work efficiently, and you will always need to go through some debugging and try some troubles inside because it's not transparent and everything. And they didn't trust us because they had own developers and they trusted them. So then it's really hard. And if that company doesn't have any trusted advisor telling them how to do that, how to do this transformation to cloud native, then every try with cloud wouldn't succeed.
Mm-hmm. And Mira, you are the expert for the public cloud. So we can somehow compare it from the developer perspective, because we can have the Azure, the GCP, and also the AWS, and they provide such different services. For example, AWS have, I think, 3 times more services than the Google Cloud and stuff like that. So is it useful for the developers to use, for example, all of these services running in the AWS? Or, because I mean, not just for the short period of the time, but even for the future.
Yeah, it's again that Petr was already mentioning this American Express and the single developer case. That's the same logic as for the security landscape. There are services for everyone, which doesn't mean that for the particular one are all the services. So you need to choose wisely or your business logic that you want to build, who you want to serve, and how you want to build the actual architecture, and what you want to use. But I wanted to more also go into the realization in how awesome time we actually live in right now, because you have a lot of, and that's what you mentioned. You can stand on the shoulders of the giants from the perspective that there's a lot of stuff already out there. There's a lot of stuff which is open sourced, so you can just take it and use it. If you do not have the balls to just use it on your own, there is a lot of companies who are actually managing the particular open source. They are just, and I am always amazed to figure out there is 700 people company doing managed Cassandra, just focusing on that. Which is crazy, and you do not need to reinvent the wheel, and you can just focus on the additional abstraction layer. So there is abstraction layer after abstraction layer, and the humanity is just moving forward in the accelerating speed, and this whole AI movement is just a nice proof of that. And it will also be another abstraction layer which will again accelerate that.
And back to the AWS, there are a lot of services there. And for developers, it's pretty hard to find the best tools for them, right? So is there any ways how they can find their best solution?
They can ask Reddit or Perplexity.
Or AI, of course, but
I wanted to say no code, low code.
I like it.
I would say that's what the platform engineering team is there for. I mean, the developer will never be expert, but because even though it's managed services by AWS and they are over super quality, they have ton of configuration parameters. And if you don't know what to put there as a configuration values, it will be expensive, it will perform poorly. I don't know. And do you, as a C# developer focused on medical, be expert on the configuration model of Cognito, for example? Most likely not, because it's a skill you will use exactly once. And what companies, especially in Czech Republic, are heavily underestimating is the cost of reskilling of the people. Are you moving to the cloud? Well, take a look on how many certifications and how many skills you should get in order to be proficient and leverage those tools properly. And if I tell somebody, well, go adopt code now, it will cost you $3,000 a month, that's too expensive. We will rather go to AWS without that. Okay, take a look at the catalog and multiply it by 50 of your developers. You are easily $2 million in for a reskilling.
I think it's not just about the cost of the cloud itself, but also about the software development, that you can use all open source solution, but you should count also the cost of the people which will handle it, and not only handle it but also set it up. I mean, for the production grade. So.
And then not only one version, then you have upgrades,
Yeah.
and then you have your production service using it on a daily basis, and your customers relying on it, and so, and what is also heavily underestimated many times is a knowledge concentration. That the fact that you have two clever guys now in the development, in the A-star development team, who can set everything up is perfect, But then one of them will leave, and the other one will be totally overwhelmed and will leave because will be fed up with the level of stupid work suddenly has to do.
Yeah.
And suddenly you as a company will end up in a situation you have great automation, nobody else can actually take over.
So how to do that?
My code now.
And for cloud, just use some partners. So.
Serverless. Well, yeah, but I think it's again along the lines of you can either be jack of all trades and have this label not invented here, I don't like, or you can just use what is already there and focus on your core business. And and that's what you said. You just need to specialize on where you are the best, and you double down on that, because that will move the needle for the company forward.
Exactly. It's quite common, not only in Czech Republic, I would say in this region, build or buy. We build everything, and because we want to save on the purchase costs, on something. So these days, everybody is building their own LLM because they don't want to send their company data to some public something. I mean, how stupid is that, It's just, how many people can you actually dedicate to that? One? Well, good luck.
Okay, we can move to the question because we have something similar to that. Michal, how is the private cloud adapting to AI workload and data privacy? And are there AI use cases where it outperforms public clouds?
Honestly, I didn't see any AI running in public cloud, in private cloud yet. I'm not sure whether Czech Republic is big enough for that. I'm not sure, maybe yes. I know there are a lot of initiatives by different vendors trying to incorporate private AI into their strategy. Either it is HP, Dell, VMware, Broadcom, whoever is trying. But the question is whether Czech market is good or like suitable for such offers. I don't know. Maybe we have top 10 companies in Czech Republic which can pay for that to have some private AI built in their data centers. But I don't know whether we have more.
And maybe they just have so small setup that it can run in their offices.
Yeah, because it's everything what was mentioned here, build or buy. Yes. And if all those vendors, those big providers of AI, paying a lot of effort to make it in a line with all those governance and all those rules, then they are trying to do a really good job, and probably it's the better way than to try to build it on your own.
Okay. So we have another question about FinOps. So Mira, FinOps, do you have any real experience from some company where developers were responsible for their budget in the PC?
I think PCs for public cloud, I guess.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I do quite a lot. I think this is like becoming de facto standard. More west we go from here, more north as well. And basically the logic is there is very nice methodology from the FinOps Foundation. Also there is this concept of crawl, walk, run. So you do not need to implement everything. You will just make like a baby steps, and then you continue with walking, then you continue with running. So we are improving. And the basic concept of providing the particular team with the budget and the showback, so they have like a very quick feedback loop regarding what their actual cloud spend is on the daily basis, so they can understand what kind of changes are causing what kind of deltas in the actual billing, is the first way in, because they will take the ownership of we are doing this because we want the company to be successful, and we want to, take the ownership, because usually also what I see is, this is not us. This is, somewhere else. We do not want to decide whether this should be shut down or not. And that's not ownership, that's just alibism.
I saw it in, I think, some couple of companies where the developers taking also care about deploying the infrastructure via Terraform, and there are some modules which can, evaluate the cost for the changes. So it was one of the cases which I saw that it somehow works, I think.
Yeah, but I think it's not only related to cloud native and DevOps. Like it's all related to any cloud consumption, because if it is big company having many departments, many business cases, many processes, many IT teams, then any of this needs some resources. And if you are not pushed to own these resources, then you will just leave it there without any workload, and nobody would care whether you need to pay or not.
Okay, and we have last question, but I think it's not related to this topic. But we can ask Petr as the tech guy. So, so what do you prefer from the monitoring, like active or active passive with MTR?
It depends. I mean, if it is a solution that is controlling traffic lights, active. Because even short MTTR will probably not do the job if you have 1,000 cars hitting each other in the crossings. But generally, active is complicated. It's costly. And again, on the application level, a lot of developers do underestimate complexity of, for example, this CAP theorem. This consistency, availability, and partition tolerance. It's not exactly easy. Then you get into conflict-free replication data types, etc. So the solution can become very complex. And the question is, do you have minds in your company able to design and crack the problem? So if not, then probably going active passive, and you are good to go with every Joe developer then. So.
Okay, thank you. And maybe we'll do just last round, and you can somehow summarize it. Any recommendation for your, not yours, sorry, for just companies how they should use the cloud and cloud native approach? So
I would just say use it smart.
So use it with us.
And with us. No, but start small and add to the budget slowly, because the $1 you will start spending today might become $3 3 months down the road. So then just quickly adding to the budget, you don't have it under control then.
Okay, and from my perspective, I think that you should think about it twice before you said that you are going to develop something yourself, and think about it. The people costs are maybe much more than the software itself. So, and that's it.
Value your hours.
Okay.
Go for a run instead of extra hours cracking Terraform.
And that's it from today's panel. So thanks, Petr, Michal, and Mira. So
Thank you, Zdeňku, for hosting us.
Thank you. It was excellent.
Okay. So I hope that we will see each other on the next Cloud Native Prague meetup. So that's it. So enjoy the networking part, take some food, and